Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, we're just going to have an interesting discussion. Where's all the sealed product gone? And no, I'm not referring to store shelves being bare. What I'm referring to is what happened to the stockpile of sealed product that distributors, sellers, investors, collectors all had stocked up. Where has all this sealed product gone? Because once upon a time, you could find Pokemon product on the clearance rack at a lot of big box retail. There were a lot of people who had been sitting on product for a long time that they just were not able to move because the demand for these cards was not there. There were some people who had guest bathrooms full of Pokemon cards that they just put in the bathroom, locked the door, threw away the key because they weren't worth selling. But that seems like an eternity ago at this point. The market has changed so drastically since those times that people have bought up all these collection boxes, all these booster boxes, all these tins, you name it. Anything people could get their hands on in the way of sealed product, they had purchased. So you have, some of these big sellers who had been sitting on product for such a long time, what felt like overnight, saw their entire stockpiles evaporate, inventory gone. And then, for one of the very first times in their selling careers, they started to find out that it wasn't as simple as just picking up the phone, calling up their contact at their distributors, and instant being able to replenish their supply that has gone away. And now, this is a world we live in today. But you got to ask yourself the question, where did all that product go? And the truth is, this product went to two places. It went to collectors and investors, because the people who had been sitting on a lot of this product for a long time were very happy to finally see returns on this product. So they let it go. And that was a long time ago. So the market has had this amazing shift that I've never experienced before, with the exception of obviously like very vintage sets, where now only the collector and investors held the inventory. Because normally, think of a lot of these XY sets. XY was not a amazing time for Pokemon. These sets were not super hot. Yeah, you can go through each sets and find highlights for each one of them. But all in all, they weren't super high demand, any of these sets. You could walk into any store on any day and pick up different collection boxes or different, pin collections or whatever that had, you could probably find a pack of each one of these sets, no problem. And when the demand finally did come up for a lot of these, people were dying to pick it up. And at the same time, people were dying to sell these products. So that leaves a good question, right? How does that change the landscape when you no longer have people sitting on gigantic supply of cards? What happens when you start to break up these large supply of cards and start to divvy them out on an individual person-by-person basis? And I think a lot of different things now will begin to happen because of that. And the first thing we have really seen is the price of product go up. And especially, we've seen the price of product go up in booster boxes. Because I need to explain something about booster boxes. I understand that booster boxes do get a lot of attention in the hobby. You have the first edition base set Shadows booster box selling for record amounts. packs being crazy expensive. You have YouTubers doing box breaks for modern stuff. Listen, during the history of Pokemon, booster boxes have always existed. Not very often were booster boxes heavily sought after by collectors. And the fact was because booster boxes was the most expensive product you can get for individual sets on the market. Yes, packs were at the cheapest by getting booster boxes, but there wasn't the crazy demand to open product like we're seeing now. So the cheaper route for a lot of people to go was individual packs and collection boxes, because they just weren't trying to open the huge amount of packs that people are trying to open now. And then a second very important thing to keep in mind is that booster boxes were not like readily available for purchase unless you went to like an LGS or on the internet. You couldn't just walk into a Walmart or Target to pick up these booster boxes. You had to go a little out of your way to get them. Now, it is very different to keep in mind too. Back when I'm talking, you can go into your LGS and not pay, crazy over MSRP for booster boxes. Normally, you would have to just talk to the guy behind the counter, let him know that you wanted a booster box, and all he would do was give you one upon release. Usually they would get a case, 6 booster boxes, and they would be happy to be able to dump one of these booster boxes on you, because they knew they wouldn't be able to sell, 6 booster boxes, because keep in mind they have to crack these boxes and sell packs individually. They didn't like to do this. So booster boxes were not super readily available. And the supply for booster boxes is probably lower than you think. But then when you start to move to ultra modern, and this is like a very important area, is you have ultra modern, which is like Sun and Moon, and really ultra modern, which is Sword and Shield. But like your XY series, while yes, all those sets, if you ask anyone, they will tell you they're modern. But the supply for a lot of these products is not as high as you probably would think. So what happened was, when, the hype did hit this hobby and people started buying everything they wanted at first, right? And everything they wanted, and you can tell me down in the comments if you think I'm wrong, but at the very beginning, a lot of the new collectors coming in wanted the modern stuff. And they didn't just want modern, they wanted the most recent modern. So we really saw a run at all the Sword and Shield sets. Vivid Voltage really, sticking out more than any other. The demand for Vivid Voltage was, for a modern set, the highest that I could remember. Because, think just going back to Cosmic Eclipse. Cosmic Eclipse was still very readily available on the shelves. Because there was so much hype for Sword and Shield coming out, because it was marking like a change in the landscape. We're finally getting through the Sun and Moon era. We're moving into Sword and Shield. People were very excited about Sword and Shield. At the end of the day, Sword and Shield was a little bit of a disappointment. People did get excited because, we saw all these new Pokemon. It was exciting. But at the end of the day, the cards in the set weren't earth-shattering. And people just had the excitement, but not the joy behind opening a lot of these packs. And then the same thing happened with Rebel Clash. Again, it was the first expansion of Sword and Shield. Everybody was excited. And yeah, Rebel Clash had a couple good cards, but at the end of the day, it was another letdown. And then finally, Darkness Ablaze came, and there was a Charizard. And that's what people have been waiting for. For Sword and Shield, people, you always want a Charizard. I freaking could care less. I'm not a Charizard guy, but listen, we know people want Charizards. So they finally got their Charizard. And the excitement was crazy. But then, when you broke down Darkness Ablaze, minus the Charizard, the set was disappointing again. So you had Sword and Shield, Rebel Clash, Darkness Ablaze, all kind of letdowns. Yeah, there was a Charizard and Darkness Ablaze, but that was it. And people started to realize that. But they didn't care because the excitement was there, right? They were just buying anything they could. Then Vivid Voltage had come out. And Vivid Voltage was a great set. And I've said it in other videos. It was the best set since Cosmic Eclipse. Because it introduced amazing rares. So it gave you excitement opening the packs. Because it didn't matter if you got a green code card anymore. Because you could still get that amazing rare. And then, you know what? For everyone who's not a Charizard fan, there's an equal amount of people that are Pikachu fans. So then you had a set that really focused on Pikachu. And there were a couple Pikachus, especially like the alternative art ones and stuff. People got excited about Vivid Voltage, but it also coincided with, the very height of this hobby. And Vivid Voltage was not super readily available. It came on the shelves, it was there, and then it disappeared. And then, we keep seeing Vivid Voltage trickle on the shelves when you get lucky. You could pick up your packs. But at the same time, the demand was there, but you couldn't get it on the shelves. So what people ended up doing was started to backtrack a little bit and going to sealed product that was still readily available on the market. And the products that were still readily available were the unpopular sets. Crimson Invasion booster boxes, Steam Siege booster boxes. That's what was left on the market. So what happened? The supply of Crimson Invasion and the supply of Steam Siege and these very mediocre sets that had an overabundance forever because sellers just were not able to move their product. These sets then started to sell. And that had major ripples throughout the hobby. Because I will tell you right now, when Crimson Invasion and Steam Siege start to fetch very high dollar amounts for booster boxes, everything else will follow going up. Because when you finally reach the bottom, and that's what you did, when you started buying Crimson Invasion, you started buying Steam Siege, we reached the bottom. We scraped everything on the way down and started to just absorb as much sealed product as we could as collectors and investors. So the dynamic that shifted in the hobby went from these people with very large supplies of product to nothing. And then when you only are left with collectors and investors sitting on this product and not wanting to sell because of what I just said, they are collectors and they are investors. They don't want to sell. The readily available supply that once existed no longer exists. So when there's no one selling, product will go up in price. And that's what we've seen. Now, for the long-term growth, I don't know what's going to happen. It's really hard to justify comparing XY sets to vintage because the way vintage exists in sealed product, like I said earlier in this video, it exists only with the collectors and investors. And we know how that market works. But are you really going to try to tell me now that we have to now talk about these XY sets? And for now, I guess you could just call Sun and Moon too, right? Because unless they go back and reprint these Sun and Moon sets, Sun and Moon now gets handled the same way that these, very old vintage sets get handled. Huge disclaimer right now, though. You can still pick up XY packs and Sun and Moon packs in different sets. Like, there's collection boxes. Sometimes you pick them up in tins. They still exist. But for the sake of this video, they're not readily available anymore. So how do we start to handle this? And the answer is pretty simple. We don't handle it. It has gotten away from the hobby. It will become the new norm for these sets to continue to go up in price because the demand has not weaned, but the people that are now holding on to this product has changed so much. And, the reason I made this video today is because I was just thinking about this. Where did this readily available supply go? And I don't know if a lot of people have really talked about this. Yes, everyone has talked about the lack of supply, and everyone knows that it doesn't matter where you go. Every single online retailer is sold out. Every hobby store has sold out of whatever supply they have. Big sellers who had bathrooms full of these sets have sold all their product. That product is gone. It now only lies with you and with me. It's an amazing time in this hobby. This hobby surprises me every single day. And the more we dive into this hobby and the more we dive into what is going on right now, the more I sit back in just absolute amazement. And yeah, I'm dumbfounded too at the same time because I don't know now where the future goes for a lot of these products. I can only see it going up because the supply for this stuff is just getting lower as we speak. And people are still opening a lot of this product. So the future is bright, especially for sealed product. And I've said it in other videos. You should be collecting sealed product, and you should be collecting raw, and you should be sending your cards away for grading. And I don't know if you've realized it by now, but all this series is, or all this channel is just one long conversation. There is no start. There is no end. It's just one long conversation. And today's conversation was just trying to have this conversation and discussion with you guys of where did all this product go? And what can that mean? And I don't know exactly what it means. I think it's exciting. Let me know down in the comments, though. What do you think this means for the hobby? What do you think this means for the future of the hobby? And if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you've made it this far in the video, please hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next video.